Yeah. So what I should add on to my childhood too was, the summer that I was going into 8th grade, my dad got a principal position out in Washington in a suburb of Seattle. So my final year of junior high and then high school was spent, well, it's compared to a big city like Phoenix or Seattle, it was still a small town. It was a lot, it was kind of like living in, like Gilbert. So you're kind of on the outskirts of a bigger city, so you've got everything available to you. And then at that time, my mom had become a school librarian. So going to your bigger question, growing up in a family where our family calendar was a school year calendar because principals had the summers off. That's all I knew. So I went from being an elementary student, a high school student, to a college student, to then becoming a teacher, where I never had I've never had to be in a time where, a lot of people when they go into their careers, they get 2 weeks of vacation a year. And so I think just even how I think about a calendar, my life has been on a school year calendar, which is very, has been kind of an aha for me as I've moved into adulthood more and more. Did I answer the full question there? Mm-hmm. Okay.
When you were a student, did you have any experience that really made you want a better education system or want to change something specific?
What comes to mind with that question? So I was always a very bright student, never top of the class. There was always 2 or 3 kids that I knew were smarter than I was, but I always felt like I was very, I was a very successful, smart student. But my sophomore year in high school, our high school had a design where every year, no matter what grade you were in, you had to do some sort of project. It was like an early version of project-based learning. And it was run through your English class. And I had an English teacher who, she was in her last year of teaching and should have retired 30 years earlier. And all we did in class the whole time was worksheets. But part of me, because when you're in high school, sometimes your social life is more important than your academic life. So even though I knew the importance of having a good education, I was more concerned at that time about friends and boys and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't really have this big problem in that I wasn't concerned about what I wasn't learning in that English class that year. And we did the projects, and it was about a year in history, so I did this project on 1963, and I was very proud of my project. And part of what made me proud of my project was what I compared, when I compared it to my classmates who had not done so well. The next year, when I was a junior, I was in honors English, and at that time, that was the highest English level you could be in for your grade. But as we neared time to do the project for our junior year, we were asked to bring in our projects from our sophomore year. And when I compared my project that had been led by an ineffective teacher compared to my classmates who had English teachers their sophomore year that were really good, it was humiliating for me to think. Here I was thinking I had done a really good job, and then I saw my classmates and what I could have done. Immediately upon seeing their examples, in my mind I thought of all the things I should have done and could have done better with my project, but I had nobody to compare it to. And that was the first time I realized, hey, I missed out. This year of high school put me behind, and And that was when it really started to open my eyes, because I think being a child of educators too, I just always assumed that that I was getting the best I could get. And then it was that experience that made me think like, maybe not all teachers are that great, or so that was definitely a significant experience for me.